Former UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson is getting a lot of heat online after he claimed that Russian President Vladimir Putin threatened him with a missile strike days before the invasion of Ukraine back in February of 2022. Manisa Danabalan joins us live with more. Manisa, and not surprisingly, the Kremlin is denying Johnson's claim.
That's right, Kelly. Johnson made the comments in a new BBC documentary that was just released today. Putin versus the West is about the Russian president's interactions with leaders around the world over the years leading up to his invasion of Ukraine just last year on February 24th.
He threatened me at one point and said, Boris, I don't want to hurt you, but with a missile it would only take a minute or something like that, jolly.
According to reports, the comments were made when both leaders were discussing the potential of Ukraine joining NATO, all the while Russia was preparing its troops to invade its neighbor while denying they were doing so. In the clip, Boris Johnson, who is still UK's Prime Minister at the time, said Ukraine wouldn't join NATO for the foreseeable future. He warned Putin that invading Ukraine could lead to sanctions. It's unclear how serious Putin's alleged threats were.
But I think from the very relaxed tone that he was taking, the sort of air of detachment that he seemed to have, he was just playing along with my attempts to get him to negotiate.
But is the claim from Johnson true? The Kremlin says Johnson is lying and that there were no threats of missiles. Putin's spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said what was discussed was the potential of missiles entering Russian territory should Ukraine join NATO. He went on to say it is either a deliberate lie, in which case you have to ask Mr. Johnson why he chose to put it that way, or it was an unconscious lie and he did not in fact understand what Putin was talking to him about. Reports suggest the last call between Johnson and Putin before the war was on February 2nd, but it's unclear if that's when the comments were made. Neither side referenced the exchange in records of the call. Many online are calling Boris Johnson out, saying he's a liar and that this is a fantasy story. One of the tweets read, "Putin is a proven liar, and the Kremlin uses industrial-scale lying as a strategic tool. But I believe their denials of Johnson's latest attention-seeking stunt more than I believe his claim." Meanwhile, the Ukrainian presidential office says Russian shelling has killed at least 5 people and wounded 13 others over the past 24 hours. The latest casualties reportedly included a woman who was killed and 3 others who were wounded by Russian shelling of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second largest city. Moscow's troops seized large areas of the northeastern Kharkiv region in the months following its invasion, but Ukrainian military has been taking back Russian-occupied territory since August.
I think Russia really wants its big revenge. I think it has already started. I don't think they will succeed with this offensive. I am confident in our army.
The warring sides are sizing up their needs for renewed military pushes, which are expected when the weather improves. France and Australia announced plans to produce and send several thousand 155mm artillery shells to Ukraine starting in the coming weeks. The Kremlin says that further supplies of Western weaponry to Ukraine would only lead to further escalation of the conflict there.
More than 7,000 people, according to the UN, have died in Ukraine, and more than 11,000 people have been injured since Russia's invasion. And the death toll is likely higher because of delays in reported fatalities during conflict.